All right, everyone, now we have a de facto admission that Joe Biden is not physically well. You know how normally presidents go up and down the big staircase to Air Force One? And it's kind of like a photo op moment. Here's the president. He's high above the people. It's very symbolic. It's very regal. Here he is, 50 feet above everyone else. He opens the door and, the soldiers salute, and he waves to the crowd, and then he comes marching down the stairs. Or, he's departing, he waves to the media, salutes the soldiers, and then goes up the stairs. The problem is Biden is not a fan of stairs. He's had, I think, 4 falls now on the stairs of Air Force One. So what have they done? They have him use the short ramp. It's Shortbusbiden now has to use the short stairwell as well, which is, I think, maybe 15 feet long or something like that. So it's a little bit easier. And if he falls, he's less likely to get injured. If he's coming out of Air Force One and he takes a tumble, an uncontrolled tumble, there ain't nobody that's going to save him till he hits the bottom. They might rush forward, they might save him the last couple of steps, but he's going to get bonked quite a few times. When you're 80 or 81, I can't remember, years old, you can break a hip, fracture your skull, and get all fucked up. Mitch McConnell is all fucked up right now, partially because of falling. I think at some point he had a stroke, and then his balance and coordination has gone a little bit rough, and he's had several falls. He got concussed recently, and that's why he's having mini strokes, or absence seizures, they're called. Those are often in the wake of a stroke, so I think McConnell is not long for the world, actually. Now it's time for Death Watch odds making. Which one do you think goes first, Dianne Feinstein or Mitch McConnell? Sure, Feinstein mentally is definitely more fucked up, but physically it looks like McConnell might actually have her beat. He's in a wheelchair too. The only saving grace for him, he's 10 years younger than Feinstein or thereabouts. So, we'll see what happens. Place your odds below. Who goes first, McConnell or Feinstein? You can throw Biden in, but he's clearly the healthiest of the three of them, to be clear. When we're making fun of anyone in the gerontocracy, it's sort of you have to measure them against one another. There is some context there. Biden is definitively less fucked up than Mitch McConnell, so yay, Joe! I'm sorry that you didn't come in first place in the dementia contest, but at least you'll probably outlive these two morons. Shortbusbiden can't even use the big boy staircase anymore because of the risk that he literally dies or gets crippled and incapacitated using a fucking staircase. Have we gone mad as a society that we're not willing to address this issue? And have people gone mad that they're not pressuring the legacy media to actually ask questions about this? So far, it's basically like Fox and the New York Post, so the controlled opposition legacy media are the only ones that'll talk about it, maybe the Washington Times. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know this is going on unless a content creator talked about it. And of course, the legacy media is constantly pressuring for us to be censored. I wonder why that could possibly be the case. Link in the description of the archive story here, by the way. I mean, it's mildly amusing. The dude is so messed up, he can't even be trusted to go up and down a staircase because he's so messed up physically and mentally, too. They tried initially to blame strong wind for why he fell over on Air Force One. I'm sorry, but even if it's a gale force wind, using a railing, you should be able to navigate a stairwell, unless you are physically infirm. Since Biden has suffered no less than 7 falls in the last couple of years, at least the falls that we know of, the ones that were either admitted to, like the time he broke his foot, nobody saw that, it took place in the shower, supposedly when he was chasing his dog on a slippery floor to grab its tail and tease it, which makes him sound even nuttier somehow than just, hey, I slipped in the shower. Other than that, though, the others have all been in public view, and that one was admitted to. 7 falls in 2 years. If I had an elderly relative, so 80-year-old great uncle or something like that, and I knew that they had fallen down 7 times in a year, I'd say, okay, at the bare minimum, I'm saying you need to take it easy and you need to start using a walker. You're going to have to do that. If I thought that it was worse than that, if I think there's also cognitive decline going on, I'm like, hey, maybe you need, depending on your socioeconomic status, maybe you need a live-in nurse sort of situation, somebody to come by and help you when you go out, somebody to, hold your arm and shit like that, or maybe I can do that or something. Or maybe it's time for assisted living, honestly. You'd say that, as you don't want your relative to fall down, break a hip, and suffer for 2 or 3 days on the floor before expiring of dehydration. That doesn't sound like a fun way to go, now does it? Of course, Biden doesn't have to worry about that because he's, the steward of the United States. He has a permanent Secret Service detail. I'm wondering, though, if I'm going to wake up one of these days, this is a genuine worry, I think, for a lot of people. You have to think about the possibility that when you wake up tomorrow, you get the news that Joe Biden got up in the middle of the night from his office, fell down, broke his hip, and laid there for an hour before a Secret Service agent on patrol managed to find him or something like that, because he had the door closed for reason. He was taking a call, then he got up, fell over, and the security service was told not to come in, and Joe Biden was knocked out on the edge of his desk for several hours in a pile of his own vomit, bleeding profusely, getting concussed and fucked up before the Secret Service said something might be wrong, we better check on the president. We might end up waking up to such a news story. And it wouldn't be funny. I mean, think about the consequences. The United States is once again humiliated. Your geriatric leader is weak. Ha-ha memes would predominate online. You're basically giving the Russians actual propaganda at that point. Here's a picture of Putin in one of his best moments. Here's a picture of Putin riding a bear or something. And here's Joe, and it just shows him like passed out next to his desk with a bottle of pills or something like that. Diplomatically, well, your chief diplomat's off the table. Who's your chief diplomat in the interim? Kamala Harris? Yes, I'm sure that will go over very well with so many foreign dignitaries when they get to smell her stink. I'm sure that everyone will want to come to the White House for a meeting when Kamala is the interim that's in charge of head diplomacy. I think that she would step back from that role and say, hey, Secretary of State Blinken, guess what? I got a little bit of a job for you for the next however long. Oh, Joe just decided to resign? Shit. Well, it's your job permanently now. You're my new vice president. That sort of situation could feasibly happen at any given point in the intermediate future. Joe's still got a long way to go. He's still in that stewardship for more than a year. He is physically in decline. He can't even walk up and down the main Air Force One staircase except on very important occasions. And every time, even if he's on the short staircase, let's say that he comes out of the plane on the short staircase. Okay, so it's a little bit easier. He could still tumble turd 3 or 4 times in that length of staircase and end up cracking his skull. He could die. He could end up with a brain bleed. He could fracture several ribs and his hip, be wheelchair bound, incapacitated, and Kamala Harris is the one that's running the show. Democrats, if you vote for Joe in the 24 election, presuming that he's the nominee, as he will be unless he dies or is incapacitated before then, you are voting for President Kamala Harris. A vote for Joe is a vote for Kamala. At this point, with the things that they have to do to keep him sheltered from the cameras, to keep him terse, to keep him from going off the rails, to keep him from literally hurting himself, there is no feasible possibility that he's going to be able to serve a full second term. So unless he kicks Kamala aside or has her resign as VP, well, I'm not going to run with Joe this time. I've had enough of the vice presidency. Unless they pay her off big time and get like a Gavin Newsom in there or someone or something, you're voting for the VP. You realize that you're voting for the vice president. You're not even voting for Joe Biden. There's no way in hell at this point that any other possibility occurs. There's like a 99% chance that he would die or be incapacitated were he to get a second term as steward. That's just the long and short of it. So keep that in mind when you fill out your mail-in ballot. That's about all. Peace out.